Brunei is the richest country almost no one knows about. A place where gasoline costs less than a bottle of water, and questioning the government costs your future. The Sultan of Brunei lives surrounded by gold, faith, and silence. And behind that perfection lies a secret the world chose to ignore. Borneo is an island divided into three versions of humanity. In the same stretch of jungle, Indonesia's chaotic democracy, Malaysia's hybrid federation, and Brunei's absolute monarchy coexist side by side. It's like watching three different futures grow in the same forest. This division created an almost cinematic contrast. On one side, the noisy, crowded streets. On the other, the golden silence of untouched palaces. Borneo became a political mirror, where every border reveals what a people are willing to trade for stability, faith, or power. And the most fascinating part is that the map itself doesn't seem to understand the paradox. Rivers, mountains, and forests flow seamlessly, yet destinies break along lines drawn by human hands. It's in this fracture that the Brunei Dictatorship emerges, a small jewel surrounded by jungle, oil, and silence. While neighboring kingdoms fell, Brunei survived by learning to dance with time. The Sultan of Brunei kept his throne for centuries, not with swords but with agreements, bending when necessary without ever breaking. It's the kind of survival that only exists where power understands the value of silence. The Borneo Island history shows that empires came and went, but Brunei always found a way to keep existing. Where others saw defeat, the Sultanate saw opportunity. It learned to give up land to preserve identity, and that instinct saved it more times than any army could. Every kingdom around it fell. Brunei learned to bend. The secret wasn't in fighting, but in bowing at the right time. That's how the small sultanate turned diplomacy into its greatest weapon and the throne into an institution older than many modern nations. Brunei's destiny changed when the ground beneath it began to pour wealth. The discovery of oil transformed a forgotten kingdom into one of the most powerful, oil-rich monarchies on the planet. Suddenly, nature started printing money, and every black drop became a silent vote of obedience. When the drills hit oil, it wasn't the Sultan who struck gold. It was the throne itself. Oil crowned power with a shine even the crown couldn't match. From that moment on, the Sultan of Brunei Wealth became not just a symbol, but a system, sustained by barrels, silence, and faith. This liquid gold bought what no sword could guarantee: eternal stability. Brunei Oil Wealth turned into a modern religion, funding comfort, loyalty, and a peace so thick even the air feels controlled. Brunei looks like paradise, with free healthcare, subsidized housing, and fuel cheaper than water. But behind this comfort lies an invisible contract: silence. In one of the most closed, oil-rich monarchies in the world, welfare became currency, prosperity in exchange for conformity. Bruneians live in paradise as long as they don't question who built it. That phrase sums up the system. The government gives everything, and in return, the people give peace. A peace made of obedience and gratitude. It's what many call a welfare state, welfare that costs the freedom to think out loud. In the end, the state's generosity is also its armor. The Brunei Dictatorship discovered that giving is more effective than repressing, because those who have everything rarely want change. In Brunei, religion and power walk hand in hand, not out of devotion, but out of strategy. Faith became the official language of authority, and law its most faithful echo. The Sultan of Brunei Wealth knows nothing strengthens a throne like the belief that the king rules by divine will. Religion became the language of power, and law became its echo. The mosques shine as brightly as the golden cars, revealing the paradox of the Borneo Island history, where piety and luxury coexist, each justifying the other. Brunei Oil Wealth funds this carefully choreographed spirituality. Islamic law is applied selectively, strict for the people, flexible for the palace. The result is a balance where the fear of God and the fear of the state blend into a single reverence. The Sultan's palace is not just a residence, it's a monument to limitless power. With over 1,700 rooms, Persian carpets, and chandeliers the size of trees, it is the beating heart of a monarchy sustained by Brunei Oil Wealth. But there's something deeper behind this spectacle. Every chandelier and every golden car serve as reminders of the throne's symbolic power. Every chandelier is a reminder that even a small king can cast a long shadow. Inside and out, the contrast is striking. While few walk on marble, many live in simple villages. Luxury is not just pleasure, it's propaganda, a way to say that the throne is eternal even when everything else changes. In Brunei, loyalty has a paycheck. The state is the nation's biggest employer, paying salaries and benefits in exchange for political silence. In Brunei, loyalty isn't earned, it's paid monthly. It's the economy of control, where every check is also a reminder of who truly rules. This model created an almost perfect cycle. The government pays, the people thank, and the system keeps spinning. Power doesn't need coercion when dependence does the work. The result is a society where obedience became routine and ambition, something suspicious. Prosperity exists, but it's carefully rationed. When colonialism swept through Southeast Asia, Brunei did something unexpected. Instead of fighting, it negotiated. When every other kingdom was conquered, Brunei did something smarter. It outsourced its protection. The British provided security, while the throne kept the appearance of absolute power. It was a convenient contract. London gained influence, and the Sultan gained political immortality. Even today, the shadow of that pact lingers. Gurkhas still guard the palace, and British advisors still walk the halls of power. In 1962, Brunei's silence almost broke. A group tried to take power but was quickly silenced. The uprising lasted days, the fear, decades. The Sultan of Brunei declared a state of emergency and never lifted it. Brunei has been in a state of emergency for its entire history. Time stopped and fear became law. Since then, the Brunei Oil Wealth has financed a peace without breath. No shots, no protests, only the constant sound of comfort bought. In the 1960s, Malaysia invited Brunei to join the Federation. The Sultan of Brunei agreed to talk, but made one condition: keep the oil. The answer was no. And with that, Brunei chose isolation, preferring golden solitude over shared equality. That was the moment the throne chose its destiny. Gold won over union. For centuries, Borneo was more chessboard than territory. Borneo became a board game where every player wanted the same piece, the coastline. Brunei learned to survive by watching. While empires fought, the Sultanate withdrew, negotiated, and waited for the right moment. Every retreat was an investment. When the game ended and the empires left, the king was still there, untouched. James Brooke, the White Raja, built his own empire in Borneo. He wasn't a governor. He was a freelancer with a flag. He ruled Sarawak like a private company, buying loyalty and selling stability. An empire without a crown, but with profit. Brooke showed that charisma and capital could replace empires long before the 21st century. The British played chess, the Dutch played poker. Where the British played chess, the Dutch played poker, all in. Winner takes all. Dutch Kalimantan was exploited to the limit. Wood, coal, everything extracted without partnership. Colonialism there was pure profit. Brunei survived through diplomacy. Indonesia through resistance. The scars still mark the map. Kalimantan is Indonesia's lung, yet it breathes with difficulty. They give the country its lungs, and yet they can barely breathe. While Jakarta shines, Kalimantan survives on promises and dirt roads. Inequality is the real political map of the country. The heart pumps wealth, but never feels the return. With Jakarta sinking, Indonesia seeks rebirth. The new capital, Nusantara, rises in Borneo, a dream of modernity in the middle of the jungle. Jakarta is sinking, so they're building a new capital in the jungle, hoping concrete can fix geography. But maybe nature has other plans. Concrete doesn't fix geography, and promises don't build belonging. Sarawak and Sabah are like siblings with a rich mother and a distant father. One prospered with oil, the other with debt. Two siblings, same motherland. One got the oil, the other got the debt. The federation exists on paper, but equality does not. The union remains an unfinished project. In Borneo, oil is the true sovereign. In Borneo, oil doesn't just fuel engines, it fuels destiny. Indonesia extracts to survive, Malaysia to compete, Brunei to remain unchanged. Every barrel decides who rules and who obeys. Brunei lives between the past and Wi-Fi. It's the only place where a golden Rolls-Royce parks next to a mosque built in the 1400s. The Sultan of Brunei reigns. Like a medieval monarch with 21st century tools, it's power that doesn't age, it only adapts. Time doesn't pass in Brunei, simply repeats. Brunei is the safest country in Asia because no one dares make it unsafe. Brunei is the safest country in Asia because no one dares to make it unsafe. Peace became a product, sold in exchange for silence. Stability is real, but costly, the price. A generation that learned nothing should change because change is frightening. Oil is running out, and with it, the era of bought security. When the wells dry, will silence still hold power? Brunei tries to diversify its economy, but the challenge is teaching people to live without guaranteed comfort. The future won't ask if they're ready, it will simply arrive. In Brunei, fear is a spreadsheet, subtle, silent, predictable. It keeps everything in place without ever raising its voice. Fear became a management tool. It prevents risks, suppresses doubts, and turns obedience into routine. In the Brunei Dictatorship, fear doesn't imprison. It simply teaches people not to test the limits of freedom. Oil became faith. Oil became the new scripture, promising eternal stability in exchange for silent devotion. Every barrel is a prayer for continuity. Prosperity is the visible miracle, silence the price paid for it. In Brunei, oil doesn't power engines, it powers beliefs. The Gurkhas brought from Nepal still protect the throne. They defend a kingdom that isn't theirs. But paychecks have no borders, living symbols of a colonialism that never truly left. Guardians of a king they don't need to love, only to serve. Independence exists, but it's guarded by foreigners. Brunei watches its neighbors as alternate futures. Indonesia and Malaysia are reflections of what the country could have been. Between democracy and chaos, between diversity and inequality, Brunei chose the path of silence. Isolation became its wall, invisible but unbreakable. In Brunei, silence has a price. Silence isn't absence, it's currency. The government pays for comfort and the people repay with quiet. A pact as old as it is effective. It's the most profitable economy in the world, the economy of silence. Brunei proves that wealth and freedom rarely live under the same roof. A nation where silence is more valuable than oil and obedience more profitable than faith. But time is changing, and when the oil runs out, the silence may disappear with it. If you want to keep discovering the stories the world prefers to hide, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Because the right knowledge at the right time changes everything.